Okay, thank you all for coming today to the Soho Poly. First of all, this is an event which is part of the Being Human Festival of the Humanities. It's a national festival. I would say go and see loads of things, but it's almost the last day of it now. I think the 23rd it finishes, a few more dates for that. But Being Human have been brilliant for us over the years. It's the third year we've had some funding. And I'm not used to microphones. I usually just shout, so this is getting a bit of feedback. It's like being in the Jesus and Mary chain. But so I wanted to thank Being Human. I think Michael and his colleagues are here today, so thank you for all your help and over the years. I'm only going to speak briefly because it's not good being the support act to somebody who's fantastic. So I'm only going to speak very briefly about this. But if anyone needs the toilet while you're here, the toilets are straight up the stairs and across. If there was to be an emergency of some sort, run out that door or up the stairs. We'll open those, but we're not anticipating any sort of emergencies for that. The room you're in, we call the Soho Poly, hence the signs here, which is created by Matt Sybottom and our design team, based around the original logo. This was discovered by my colleague and partner in crime, Matt Morrison, who's over there. We do a lot of work together on these events, and Matt is the person that rediscovered this theatre around about 6 years ago. It was a storeroom. If you go in that little room over there, it doesn't look that attractive from here, but if you were to go in there, there's a lot of pictures which show what it was like many years ago. But when Matt found it, it was just full of rubbish, really. We used it as a storeroom. But Matt uncovered this really interesting history about how the Soho Theatre that's now on Dean Street was in this building, in this room, between 1972 and 1990. All those photos around the edge there are all taken by Nobby Clark, a really well-known theatre photographer. Those photos weren't even seen until 2 years ago for the first Being Human event, when Matt managed to get Nobby to agree to use the negatives and to actually get them put up there. They're all taken in this space, and I think it's a sort of tribute to the dynamism and the excitement of the Soho Poly guys, particularly Fred Proud, who's on the picture behind Adam over there, and Verity Bargate, the two original artistic directors that created the stuff in this space. It's amazing things they did down here. The really interesting thing about the Soho Poly was its commitment to lunchtime theatre. And the idea being that some people saw the theatre as being quite elite. You had to get babysitters, you had to go in the evening. This was an antidote to that. The idea was you could come at lunchtime, you could, for free, you could come down those stairs and watch some lunchtime theatre for 45 minutes, a short piece of work. You could disrupt your everyday with some culture. And that's really the watchword of what Matt and I have been trying to do. The idea that we think culture is really good for you, really good for your mental health, really good for your soul. And we've put on a lot of events down here, such as poetry, such as plays, which have tried to sort of reflect that idea. Now, this year, the Being Human concept, I've forgotten what it is now. It's Discoveries and Secrets. I always forget because one year it was, anyway, Discoveries and Secrets. That's what it was. It was, so Discoveries and Secrets. Well, Matt and I saw that phrase. We thought, well, what are we going to do? Well, what we did was we dug deeper. We dug deeper before the Soho Poly, and we found out a really interesting sort of prehistory of this space, before it was a theatre. And what it was, before it was the Soho Poly, was an arts workshop. Now, when you all came in today, hopefully the students will have shown you all those posters and shown you that room and told you about how Hendrix got on stage there and how Pete Townsend played in there and Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac and David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust and all played in that room. All those posters were produced in this room by students producing those posters, fantastic posters. Over there, where Jonathan's sitting doing the streaming, over there was the developing room for photography. Lots of photos were developed over here. This was a really vibrant arts workshop. So we started to dig a bit deeper. We found out, as well as being an arts workshop, it was the home of Polyfolk. And Polyfolk was the students' folk society. And so all these things were going on in here. And before I talk about Polyfolk, actually, one of the things we did earlier in the week as part of Being Human was Hannah, who's here somewhere. There she is, Hannah at the back, did a fantastic fanzine workshop in here. So all week, all the bits on the walls around here have been added to with exciting things that we've done. So the fanzine workshop materials are all in that little room as well. Some brilliant work created by the visitors to Being Human on Monday. And I think it's been a really vibrant week, because Matt and I are used to doing poetry and plays in here, but to see people making things is really exciting. We had a climate crisis one yesterday with Greenpeace in, and there's all the stuff on the wall behind the camera, all around the the Environmental Society 25 years ago here, saying the same things that Caroline Lucas was saying yesterday about her 20 things that needs to be done. But anyway, Polyfolk, so this room was also used for Polyfolk. And Polyfolk was a student folk society. It wasn't actually in this corner, so we've been told. It's over in that corner over there was Polyfolk. For the theatre, they used this end, and where you're sitting now would be where the audience was sitting. But for Polyfolk, it was in that corner over there. About 2 years ago, Matt and I brought a guy down here called Dusty Pulver. And what a great name for a start. But his name's Dusty Pulver, and he came down. He was a student here in 1969, 1970, and he was the chair of the Polyfolk Society. So he put on a lot of bands down here. And Dusty had 5 strokes, and he said before he came down, he said to me, I'm not sure, what I'll be able to say or whether I'll be able to talk. He came down this space, and the magic was there. He was lucid. He was talking about the space, talking about Sid Barrett coming down here, talking about Paul Simon walking down those steps, then walking back out again. He didn't stay. Talking about all these different stories about what went on in this place. Even more excitingly, Dusty had recorded a number of these things from the sound desk. So we started to source all these brilliant things he started sending me. Recordings of Sheila MacDonald, of Harach, of Ralph McTell, of all these different people that had played. Amazing materials that we're starting to digitise now at the university. So that was quite an amazing thing to hear about the Polyfolk. And in some ways, what we're doing today is a tribute to that, because there's not been a gig in this space for nearly 50 years. And today, Martin Stephenson is going to play for you. What's going to be fantastic. I've heard the sound check, and it's going to be brilliant. But I want to talk a little bit about why Martin is doing this for us today, because I'm really very excited that he's doing this. The first thing to say, why Martin, is because I was a Dainties fan in my youth. And as all good teachers have, I'm a lecturer at the University of Westminster. I've got a number of props. First of all, I bought this album in 1986. Did it come out? Yeah. So I bought that in 1986. Martin can barely remember himself, but he bought it in 1986. I actually saw Martin before that, and being slightly sad myself, I collect tickets, and I've always collected tickets. If you look at my first ever ticket, XTC, Birmingham Odeon, 1981. But I managed to find some of my tickets when I saw Martin all those years ago. You can see Billy Bragg playing Islington this week, if anyone's going. The Dainties playing at Burberry's, the Click Club in Birmingham. Another Dainties one. I was a bit confused by this, because Pete Bafides, who's Soho Radio, he used to go to the club a lot, and I said to him about this. I thought it was 1984, but he says no, 1985 or 6. He's not sure. But then we see some other ones. I went to Leeds to college. I saw Martin play the Warehouse in Leeds. This was before the second album came out, which was Gladsome Human Blue. Seamless props. And then, in my third year at college, the day before, well, very close to one of my exams, I went to see Martin play at Leeds Poly. And that day, he was even better than usual, which is, amazing. And we decided, 3 of us decided, oh, he's so good. He's playing Rock City the next night. Let's go to Rock City. So we went to Rock City the next night, drove down, got there. We arrived at Rock City, we went and bought some tickets. Here's my ticket, Martin Stephenson, the Dainties. Now the reason, this is quite unusual for me, because it's got the stub on it. And the reason it's got the stub on it is because as we were walking up the hill out of the venue, we saw Martin and Ant, who was in the band at the time, walking along, and we thought, Christ, it's Martin, Ant from last... And Ant looked and said, I saw you last night. We'd been down the front at Leeds Poly, so he'd seen us. And he said, oh, we'll put you on the guest list. I'd never been on a guest list before. For me, this was like, unbelievable. Bloody hell, we've met Martin Stephenson. He's put us on the guest list. Martin said, sell your ticket, buy some beers. Sound advice. Unfortunately, as you can see, I didn't sell it. We made very cursory attempts in Yates's Wine Lodge in Nottingham to sell these tickets to very disinterested customers. So we didn't actually do that. But at the gig, we went down the front, and Martin passed some drinks down to us. Cut then to about 10 years later, maybe 15 years later. I was home one night after teaching. The Champions League was on, and I got this phone call. Hello, Guy, it's Martin. I thought, bloody hell, what's this? Through a mutual friend, Martin had got my number, and he'd heard that I do some work on entertainment law, about law and contracts, and he rung me for some help about some contractual problems he'd been having. Out of this, along with a colleague of mine called Alex Sinclair, who's fortunately he's supposed to be here today, but he's done well, but a very interesting character who used to work for Robert Stigwood's in the 70s, and was the head of publishing, we went back and actually got a lot of the rights back for Martin from both his publishing contracts and record contracts at the time. So, and we did this for Martin and then helped him with some other bits and pieces, some other work around licensing Morning Time for Nutella and things like that, some other bits and pieces. Now, the reason we did that is because part of the culture of the University of Westminster is about helping people, and it's about being a bit different to other places, and about actually, we've got a long history during the First World War of rehabilitating soldiers and doing other things like this. So we like to try and help people if we can and do these sort of things. And one of the pieces of paper you've got there is a bit about lost in music. And that's the idea with that. It's a funded project to try and help people that are lost in music find their way through the maze of copyright and contracts and live things and stuff like that. And we like to think in some way that we helped Martin when he was lost in music. And Martin coming back to do this for us now is almost like, I think Martin's almost saying thank you for doing what you did all those years ago, helping him out with his contracts. I think I've said enough. There's probably stuff I've forgotten that Matt will tell me to talk about at the end, maybe, when I have to sum a few things up. But I think without further ado, I should pass over to Martin. As I say, he's a fantastic performer. I must have seen him 15 times. They sounded brilliant in the sound check. And I just want to leave with one thing. If any of you listened to Tom Robinson on Radio 6, 2 weeks ago, Martin was on. And I invited Tom to come along because we've got an event tomorrow where we're doing Pop and Politics at PCL, which is celebrating the PCL years where a number of bands played. If you get a chance for a look around later, a lot of the material at the back of there about when Weller played with the Jam for Jobs for Today, the UB40 various gigs. We've got a ghost gig about a Redskins anti-apartheid gig coming up next month. These are all the gigs that took place. And tomorrow we've got an event where it's the anniversary of Pete Shelley turning up at Regent Street site when the students were occupying the building, turned up with a guitar and an amplifier and said, can I play some songs for you? And they said, yes. So they went in and he played for them on that day, and he played about 7 songs, then left. And tomorrow we're recreating that. We're having a little talk about some of the general pop and politics, and a brilliant student of ours, Matt's particularly, called Alex Hancock's going to be performing some of the Buzzcocks tracks, and then some select cuts from all these other bands that have played over the years. But to go back to Tom Robinson had played PCL. And Tom Robinson, when he introduced Martin last week, I think I got this right, unless I was dreaming it, he described him as Sunderland's answer to Tom Waits. So I think, what a phrase to talk about you in, Tom Waits. But all I'd like to say is, I've been chuffed to see Martin so many times over the years. I'm really delighted he's here today to see Martin, who is now going to perform for you, along with Anna and Jim. And you're in for a treat, I promise.
Thanks very much, Guy. That cost me 30 quid to get that. Littles. Can I go past Littles these days? Oh yeah, it's all right. It's warm down here, isn't it, Jim? It's like being in the Velvet Underground again. Well, this is Jim Morrison on the fiddle. Remember the Doors? That Jim used to be in the Doors. They all thought he was dead, but he's not. That's Neil James Morrison. Wow, it's like one of them intimidating things you see in the 70s, they're all sitting there. Oh, 1, 2, 2. I will have a little warm up. Shall we pick a bit of blues, Jim, and see whatever tune it got my eye. Well, let it rain, let it pour, let it rain a whole lot more. I got them deep old river blues. Maybe take the guitar back just an elephant's tranquilizer now. If you take an elephant's tranquilizer, you live in the carpet for 4 days, the giant termites come and get you, they make you the prisoner, and they force you to make an album with Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox. So we'll just go. That's it there. Well, I think I'll go down to the basement in Westminster. Things are getting better down there, I'm told. I got the deep river blues. There ain't no one gonna cry for me. The fish go out on a spree. I got them deep old river blues. I normally, when I'm going loud, I come in on the mic, which is the wrong way around. When I go quiet, I move off. So I got it right there. Level 42. Exorcism. It's an extra 20 pence for that. What's the key of B minor like for you, Jim? He can play anything, man. It doesn't bother him. The keys are for students. The masters don't need keys. It's just all one again. All the walls come down. The cosmic intelligence comes in. That's where Jim is. I'm serious, with the music. I'm serious. This is the first song I ever wrote, Jim. I don't know if you might not know this. I think you've probably played this song with us a couple of times. It's called The Sad Tale of Joe McHugh, and where this song comes from. When I was 10, I had a mate called Willie. And Willie was like a bullet. He was like a little blonde sprinter. He was like a bullet. And I was a long distance twig. I was like a twig. And we were highly incompatible. Like when he was finished in 10 seconds and he had to hang around all day for me, I was Lassie Viren. It's 1970. We're on a piece of grass in front of the council houses, red bricks everywhere. Just painting a picture for you. You smell a chip shop. It's 8 o'clock at night. The mothers are shouting for the kids. And they're not coming in. And I ran round the side of my mate's house to get a glass of water. You didn't need a lawyer then. You just got a glass of water. And on the step was this tall figure. It looked like a cross. As I go back and look at the picture in my mind, it looked like a cross between The Thinker and Ian out of Joy Division. Yeah, I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, Ian. All right. That's him. So, welcome to the future. You just get cut off. You're right in mid-flight, you get cut off. Anyway, he stood up and I was 10-year-old and I come to this kind of Boo Radley moment. And he's looking at me and I'm looking at him. And I could see there he was really beautiful and gentle. And he just went, sorry. And I looked at him and he just like an angel, he walked around the corner. And that's the only time I met Joe. And a week later, he walked into a field on the outskirts of our little village, Washington Tyne Way. It was only a little pit village there. And he doused himself with petrol and he burned himself to a cinder. And I remember my mother weeping because she knew his mother. The whole community was just devastated. It was like a beautiful 19-year-old student who was suffering from depression. We didn't have the capacity to do anything at that age. I had a momentary meeting with him, which was burned. And I become a songwriter through that meeting, I didn't realize at the time. And I just carried the image till I was 14, and then I blurted it out. I channeled it. I didn't know what my crown chakra was at that time. I thought it was a pub in heaven. Anyway, it come through. And then I hid it. I kept it. I carried it till I was 30. I'd written songs after that. But I had it hidden here. And then I was working with guidance a lot. They used to call me Dr. Rainbow in the van. I was always reading about colour therapy and forgiveness, what the Nazis consider low forms of intelligence, like kindness and forgiveness, love, That's the Nazis, not us, the Nazis. So anyway, I manifested the song when I was 30, and what helped me manifest it was guidance. I was dealing with guidance a lot, and that's how I operate in the here and now with the guidance. It's perfect. So I heard a voice and it said, look, you've been carrying this song for far too long. It's your first ever song. You need to share it. And it transformed it for us so I could. It said, look, think about the suicide. converted into a birth. So the suicide, you're free of that now. It's a birth. And it's not the death of a young man that you feel a lot of guilt or whatever it is about. It's an angel. So it's the birth of an angel as opposed to the suicide of a beautiful young student. And that's what set me free to share the song. And I started sharing the song when I was in my early 30s. So anyway, happy Christmas. And, this is the sad tale of Joe McHugh. Just shake your head if you want the vibrato. That'll be the left foot there, Joe. Joe would sit upon that step. His sadness hid, he needed help. Depression damped the sun that shone. His fragile life would soon be gone. He doused himself to free his heart, and he sacrificed himself to his God. Well, I'm full of woe for Brother Blue. How one so young could fall so soon, but he's free now, as I'm telling true this sad tale of the angel Joe McHugh. He was 19 years, a work of art, his face a beauty, silent heart, the stunning athlete, he ran the wind, he stayed a virgin, he never sinned. His sister Rosie, William too, they saw his torment, yes they knew, but never dreamed of the deed he'd do, their pained and tortured Brother Blue. But he's free now as I'm telling true, this sad tale of Joe McHugh. For the Wombles. Underground, overground, wombling free. One afternoon it got too much. In adolescence he lost his touch. He walked a mile in pain and sorrow, up and there'd be no tomorrow. He drank that petrol, he doused his cups. He lit the match of Mother Nature's force. Another angel leaves this land, way on up to farther skies, loving hand. But he's free now as I'm telling true this sad tale of the angel Joe McHugh. Take us home, Joe. We can normally get a month out of this song, you know. It's lasted a month one time. It's 5 albums. Well, maybe he was walking in the dark, far from mother's womb, walking in the dark at the Lost Boys Club. I know his daddy's mouth was sharp. Maybe that's what drove him to despair. He got tired of bloodletting that shark. His skin too thin and fair. I always get the look from certain people in the audience, right, we're going to give him Mogadon. Yep, he ticks all the boxes. Yep, section the booger now. Just looking for some. This song's called Synergy, Jim. I hope you enjoy learning it, like the rest of the set. We're terrified of rehearsals. You know when you go the other way, where you've never rehearsed and you don't have any training, it's the other way. Any sign of rehearsals just terrifies you, you know. As they say, you know how to stop a guitarist with it. Put some sheet music in front of him. And it's the other way around with the classical. You take the sheet, take the sheet music away. So we're like opposites. Anyway, this song's called Synergy. And it was about a magic mushroom trick. I had a great magic mushroom trips from 1979 to 1985. Never had a bad trip. I used to walk around. Only once I went up to a skinhead. I used to wear this red jumper that had long sleeves. It would have looked great on you, Neil. This long red sleeves. And I used to walk around Sunderland. And I went up to a skinhead once. I went, I love you. He went, I'll fucking love you in a minute. I sobered up quick and I ran in front of this bus that nearly hit me. That was a lesson. But this song's called Synergy. It come from a bad trip. I was sitting like this, I remember. And I remember seeing me desert boot just doing this. And I think, I love me desert boot. I forgot about the other one. I'm just tripping away in Satellite of Love's place. Satellite of Love, you know. And it's just, oh, it's great. I forgot I was just happy and I turned around. There's this dark figure. A Bauhaus fan, you know. And it was Mick Hanratty, me mate, and he was like, everything had gone wrong for Mick. He was carrying the pain, you know, he was a cynic. And it just went, it was like the bad genie just jumped in me. So that's 4 hours you got with that, unless you drink a lot of orange juice. Anyway, this song comes from just coming out of there, and it's about when you get the giggles and that, and it's about, this is before the hair product Synergy. This is way before that. And it's about the dualistic or the fragmented becoming one. Yeah, oneness. Perceiving everyone as an awakening being who is here to claim his or her birthright in the higher consciousness planes of unconditional love and oneness. That's what I tell the skinheads. This song's called Synergy. It's an interesting cookie. It's just let you in with some information. I used to work with a lass called Jenny Astley, songwriter, left field, avant-garde kind of, and she said the Tears for Fears, when they originally got together, was to make money for primal therapy. And you know the primal therapy is you go back to your scream. Mine was just like a little cough. But you know, some have got these almighty screams, and then they have a pre-primal, then they have a full primal, and then apparently they're great. Then they become Findhorn material. But I think we had one of these as well. It's about that. So it's anyway, I'll shut up. What are you listening to? You're not listening to my shit, are you? What, you got Megadeth on there? I've encountered that before, actually. Have a little walk around, Jim, make yourself familiar. Pacing the earth with our sights set on heaven, willfully becoming one to surpass all of the things we alone could achieve, never in which case we chose synergy. We took a path of bombarded impression, losing ourselves in the moment, seeing the true self as none but a feeling, scuffed by the lessons of living. We shared intense fear, saw the largest lamp in the world. Then we returned to fulfill our ambition, like the Romans, selfishly with synergy. Took a path of bombarded impression, losing ourselves in the moment, seeing the true self as none but a feeling, scuffed by the lessons of living. Then we spoke with death and shed intense fear. We saw the largest lamp, that'll be the pre-primal, in the world. Then we returned to fulfill our ambition, selfishly synergy. Sorry, I cocked that one up. Gonna invite my friend and my lovely partner Anna, who's a lovely, lovely person and very talented woman, and Anna's had quite a history selling the drug baroness. No. Anna will never tell you what she did. She's the opposite that I am, gobshite. But when she was young, she worked with Rick Meal, and I love Rick Meal and Adrian Edrinson. I didn't realise that the young ones for 2 years before it went on the telly. We were all kind of 20-something-year-olds watching on the telly. By that time, Anna said no to the bad news tour, which I would have killed for, and she went away and worked with Lindsay Kemp for till you had your lads, and that was quite amazing. She met her husband Eric, Neil's dad. And it's just been great. It's great when you meet somebody later on in life. Divorce is a good thing, you know. Because you get a chance to meet somebody else and then you fill in the dots. It's great, you know. It's exciting. But and when I said friend first, because it's great. Your partner's got to be your mate, man. You know, and we love each other. And we're going to sing a song called Paris in the Rain. And Anna wrote the lyrics to this song. It's a lovely lyric. It was definitely an improvement on my lyric level. And we went to Paris and we had 3 days and it was pissing down. So we had onion soup. And being a very selfless boyfriend, I took it to all of the guitar shops. we had a look at the guitar shops and people watching and cups of tea. I love that, you know. We just had a really nice time. And went back to the hotel one afternoon and she wrote this lovely lyric and it's about her. And just to give you a little bit of insight, on the Sunday we went to Rule of Pick, you know, where Van Gogh, the man without the ear, you know, it's hard to believe he never sold a painting, you know, but anyway, we went to just have big kids and be on Rule of Pick, and it was Sunday. We spotted this old, like a little small studio in it, and there was a window, and there was an old easel in the window, and had paint all over it and all that, and it said, press the button, so Anna pressed the button, and this old guy come to the door, he looked like Vincent Price, with a white hair. Next thing I know, he's got the door open, he's kissing Anna up the arm like Gomez Adams. And they're speaking Spanish to each other, and I'm trying to be 56 and not jealous. What's he fucking saying to you? What's he saying? Oh, you know, he's kissing his way in this. But what it was, he was telling her that he'd left Barcelona when he was 6 with his mum. The same time Picasso left when Franco came in. There's another dictator. And he'd lived in Paris all his life and become a painter. Then suddenly he saw these paintings on when he was a young wild stallion, all these naked pictures. And I says, come on, we're going.
He was in his 80s.
He was in his 80s, threatened by a white-haired ghoul. It was brilliant. And he was called Raymond, I don't know how you pronounce his second name, Gaux, Guix. Boy, this guy doesn't know how to talk, Jim. Hey, no, you should get on with this. Anyway, this song's called Paris in the Rain, and Anna wrote these lovely lyrics. Check them out. If you hear a line that says Raymond's in his time warp, that's... That's the magic mushrooms coming in there. Chips.
Thank you for bringing me Paris in the rain, holding me close to you, never any shame, playing old guitars and a sweet mandolin.
Fiddle song.
Fiddle, fiddle.
Sharing hot chocolate, flavored with just a little sin. the streets we feel our troubles wash away, moving as lovers as the night turns into day, back to the pleasure of sweet love's embrace. Sanctuary warmth and a welcome smile upon your face.
It's raring to go here. Shall I let him go ahead? You got it. Radar looks, man. It's great looks, man. The lanes of Montmartre weaving into one, huddled artists gather, hoping for the sun. Graffiti strewn bridges reveal the art of the day. There's some art of the day there, Jesus Christ. And Raymond's in his time war. Oh, he's just survival at play. Well, I say the old git, I'll give him a kick in the shins. Thank you for bringing me Paris in the rain, holding me close to you, never any shame, playing old guitars and a sweet violin. That's the one, fiddle, violin, rhymes with mandolin. Sharing hot chocolate, flavored with just a little sin. He's a poor boy, he's a poor boy, he's a long way from home.
Merci pour Paris.
I tell you, all them hours of rehearsal that we did, Jim, it paid off there, didn't it, when we got the... We're going to do a song about a fiddle, because, you know, it's lovely. This is Jim's Chinese fiddle, but it's still worth about $2,000. Anne doesn't know, like his wife says, she thought he paid 30 quid for it, you know. That could have been a Chesterfield couch, you know. I'm not trying to cause trouble. Oh, it's like an eagle. Oh, it's an eagle, Do you sometimes get pictures with your music, you know? Do you see pictures when you're playing? Some people's heads are full of, like, you know, people have got large menus and they can talk about things for hours. I've got small menus. It's just like a couple of jelly tots and a pigeon. That's it. The cornflake. It's toasted. It's in a large box. That's me. I'm out. This is called the day Posey Rohrer sold his fiddle. And songs can come from all different ways. I was sitting in the back of a car, I was in like this rockabilly trio. I was an imposter, I was an artist that was like, I'd learnt a little bit of Chet Atkins and I got rites of passage. I didn't have to be hung up by my nipples like a man called Horse, you know. I kind of got in there because I picked a bit of Chet Atkins. I got in with this rockabilly, these time travelers, rockabillys, you know, they just land and they were master rockabillys, you know. So I got in there because I wanted to figure out how they did it. I still don't know. This is like 25, 30 years ago. But I got in as an imposter in the bloodstream, and I got to go through the vortexes in the rockabilly spaceship, you know. And one day the bass player turned around, he says, "You look a bit bored there, read this." And it was The Life and Times of Charlie Poole and the North Carolina Ramblers. Years later, it sent me and Jim on a trip there. We went out there and picked with the Rohrers, which were descendants of the guy who wrote this book. Anyway, I was reading about Posey Rohrer, and Posey was a club-footed fiddle player. He came into his power around about 1925, and he hooked up with Charlie Poole, who was a bit of a bad boy, a bit of a fighter and stuff, and great banjo player, songster, carried songs, loads and loads of songs. He was a fan of Al Jolson. He just got it wrong, you know. Like, I'm a fan of Lou Reed, and I got it wrong. but you get it wrong and you get it right. You know, you just have an attempt and then you do a brush stroke and you end up with something different. Anyway, Charlie Poole was carrying these songs. Posey Road, they had a band called the North Carolina Ramblers, and this is about Posey's fiddle that went missing. We're friends with Dougie Rohrer, who's 70 now, and his brother Kinney, and they're like the descendants of Charlie and Posey. And it's a long story, but anyway, this is about the fiddle that went missing. And the last time it belonged to Posey, Charlie had died, and this is about 1933, and Posey used to send a taxi out for whiskey. And then one day he couldn't pay the whiskey bill, so he just handed the taxi driver the fiddle, and that's the last time the fiddle belonged to the family. And they're still looking for this fiddle, you know, so that's what this song's about. Just wait till the smoke machine finishes. And we're using the Chaz and Dave a lot tonight. There's Chaz, and there's Dave. That's the brass section there, the Tower of Power, just for you in the basement. There's Ian Jury coming in now. Baby, please don't go down in New Orleans. You know I love you, so don't go up the white stairs. Baby, please don't go. Yeah. Let's hear some of that old fiddle there, Jim. It was a sad day. It was a huffing in the heat of the Lord. It was a sad day when that evil old angel, she drew her final sword, and the North Carolina boys cried on the day Posey Rohrer he died. And he died when he was alive, when he sold his soul, when he sold that fiddle and the bow. Bet you would never sell yours, Jimmy. It was a sad night. There was dogs barking to the sky on a sad night when the money and the whiskey ran bone dry, and that old fiddle's tuning pegs tell the tale of the money Posey saved for his legs. He had a clubfoot operation, selling all the liquor he could to the North Carolina's muscle and blood. The North Carolina boys cried on the day Posey Rohrer died. And he died when he was alive, when he sold his soul, when he sold that fiddle and the bow. Play that lonesome fiddle, Jim, there. Sorry about the American accent, out of drama. We'll just throw a few quick things at you. This song's for a tune. It's an old tune from the 40s, actually. It's an instrumental. But it's for a guitar builder called Stephenson. He was around in the early 80s. And I hear it, well, I just had to listen to this story. Oh, my God. You'll have no blood when I'm finished with you. But no, I'll keep it short. And Stephenson, he was a great... what he was he was a cello and, master craftsman for the King's Court in Austria. But then he would, like a lot of luthiers, he was distracted by the little novelty instrument popularised by women in parlours. So the cock rockers were nowhere to be found then. Slash was miles away. And parlour guitars. And it was women that popularised the small guitars. The Americans always come along, just like, they sneaked over, they saw our Harry Potter car, and then they sneaked back with the plans, and then they made the Cadillac. It's the same principle. They just made the speakers bigger, but not necessarily better. So if you look at the guitars at the turn of the century, they had small bodies. We called them parlour guitars. And Stoffer was a master cello and violin maker, so he had all the knowledge and the skills. So he turned on the guitar. He was distracted by this little novelty instrument, and that's when the guitar just went woof in its evolution. It went wang. And the first thing he did was, if you look at the side of Jim's violin to the side, can you see the Persian slipper? The other way, that's it, Jim. See the Persian slipper? And a lot of the people used to call it for slang as the Persian slipper. Well, what Stoffer did was he got a flat piece of wood and made exactly the same shape, but like for a guitar headstock. And then he put the machine heads, he put 6 along the top. So in 1827 or 28, he invented the Fender, what you would think is the Fender headstock. Well, you got the 6 machine heads, so he was way ahead of the game, And then what he did is he put a bolt-on neck again, a cello and a violin, knowledge. So this guitar came along and it just leapt ahead. It was like the Les Paul of its day, and it just shot the guitar into the evolutionary planetarium. That's the best word I can get at the moment. Now, he ended up in the poorhouse, typical. But his apprentice, C.F. Martin, took all the knowledge to Pennsylvania, and all that knowledge, turn of the century, went to America. And we're going to shoot forward now to the point where the motorbike and the electric guitar were born together and fused, There was a guy called Paul Bigsby, and he was in California, and he'd been a motorcycle champion. He was also a phenomenal engineer, a pattern maker, and he used to make bits. He used to fix everybody. All the Western swing musicians of the 30s and 40s would go to Paul and have their bikes took apart and put back together. He'd make parts for them. And there was a guitarist, we're going to play his instrumental called Merle Travis. And he was sitting at Paul's once getting his bike fixed, a Crocker, they're all Crocker motorcycles then. And he says, Paul, would you be able to make me a guitar that's like solid-bodied, that doesn't make any noise? I can put a pickup on it and it comes some kind of vibrato system. And Paul just said, draw a picture and I'll make it. And that's what he did. And he used aluminium, he used all his motorbike knowledge, and a guitar called the BY-48 was born. If you go on YouTube, BY-48, Merle Travis, this is the Bigsby guitar. Now, very quickly, the Knights Templar in America, of which Merle Travis was one, Chet Atkins, Joe Mathis, Grady Martin down in Nashville. It was like a Knights Templar of about 12 or 15 great, serious musicians, all ended up with a Bigsby. And nobody else, they were on a different planet. Now, the genius of the Fender guitar was Leo Fender made it for us. He made a guitar that was beyond the Knights Templar, and it was the IKEA version of the Bigsby guitar. You break your neck, you get another one. You go to IKEA. And that's all the Fender guitar is. Even the early 1950s ones that are worth about £400,000 now. If you want something that's really true to the original first Fender guitars, buy a Mexican one for 300 quid. Don't spend $3,500 on some custom shop jobby. I'm hemorrhaging people here, so we'll get on with the tune. This is the Cannonball Rag, and it's for Leo Fender, it's for Paul Bigsby, Merle Travis, Stoffer, and C.F. Martin in that little trail of guitar development there. This is the Cannonball Rag. I'm not sure what key it's in, Jim. Just let me go around once. Is that B or something? I'm not sure. Or E. Hang on a second. I'll just confer the shaking back lady. The shaking back. Oh, it's in the key of E. Gotham City, Commissioner Gordon had his headphones on. Oh, your hands are cold. Jim's hands are cold. Jim was sitting with Anna the other night. He said there's just this brilliant thing. I'll probably elaborate on it a bit. We played the Cavern in Liverpool. There was this big Russian guy at the gig, and he scared everybody. He looked like Robbie Coltrane with the hair out. Oh, yeah, I thought he was going for us there, you bugger. I do balsa wood kung fu. And anyway, this big Russian guy says, he got a CD and he went off and grumbled away. And then Jim was going, "Where's the Russian man? Where's he gone?" I says, "I don't know, ask Anna." "Anna, where's the Russian man? I was wanting to go for dinner and have a chat with him. He seemed a very interesting chap." I said, "He looked like an absolute throat slasher to me. But Jim, if you know, he's scary." Anyway, "I like the Russians. I drink with the Russians. They're good people." He says, "Sometimes when I drink with the Russian men, we sit there and we put a bottle of vodka until it's all gone. And then the Russian man says to me, 'Do you trust me?' And he's looking at me and he's intimidating me. 'Do you really trust me?' So that's how every day we say that now. But before we go on, Jim, do you trust me? Anyway. Look at this song there. This song's called Mother's Son. And, I always wanted to be gay, actually. You know, I was quite disappointed when I realised I was a kind of a reluctant hetero. What a concept for Pink Floyd, eh? But say I had a renowned homosexual friend, I was kind of jealous of him. He was like funny. Everybody was scared of him because he had a really sharp tongue. He worked in a nightclub and he had girls' names for all the bouncers, you know. "Shirley, put those glasses away." You look round, he's 6 feet. Shirley's like a Mitchell brother. There's loads of them out there, Mitchell brothers. Anyway, this song's about being a mother's son. I'm a mother's son. When the van used to come to pick us up to go on tour, I knew it was full of sarcasm, but I didn't care. And I stood and gave my mother a good old kiss on the council house step. "I'll miss you, Mum." And they go, "Ugh." But they all got kisses off their mothers as well, man. Anyway, rather than being a father's son, we have a saying in our band: the guitar is our gun, it fires music. As long as I don't sing, nobody gets hurt. The little noises you're hearing back there is Neubauten are getting back together. They've chilled out a bit now. I remember playing in 1984 at the ICA. Remember the ICA? And they were repairing the stage. Neubauten had been in earlier on. They'd sawed holes in the bloody stage. They had cement mixes. It was like a building site. Brilliant. Anyway, this is called Mother's Son. It's in the key of D. From my mother died of stomach cancer in 2003, you know, and we're always really close. But she got given another year. We thought we'd lost her in 2001 and a half, and she got another year, so we just really milked it. We just hung out all the time, you know. You don't realise when they're on the same physical plane as you, but when they're gone, you need that medicine to go on, to go on, to go on. It's like a big golden sail behind you, and it'll be with you forever. So when I'm talking to you, Ma, I can see your golden dawn, and I feel so proud and tall, you know, just to be a mother's son. And I don't need no warrior in me to get my message done, for I am blessed to know the truth, my love, and to be a mother's son. It's origami I do, not martial arts. I go to the knitting club and I don't care. for so long now. I call this exile home. That's the Highlands. And I don't mean much to many souls, but at least I've seen my children grow. And when the sun pours down so loathfully, I'll never feel alone in this world. For I am blessed to know the truth beloved, and to carry my mother's medicine, my mother's medicine. Some of you've got little feet like me. Look at the little feet. These sketches are 2 sizes too big. Well, the open Russia skies, they cry, and they skim a rosy dawn, and the tender skylark flies so high. She's soon born like your sweet medicine, ma. I can feel you calling me home from the spirit world. Now I'm blessed to know the truth, my love, and to be my mother's son. Jim. Just tell us when you want us to stop, Guy, because there's nothing out there for me and Jim. It's this is free therapy, and we'll not stop till everybody's dead. You'll be known as the bearded ladies if you know. Yeah. Just throw a couple of quirky songs in there of kind of. I get the songs. I think they throw the songs out the song nest, and everybody goes, "Oh no." I'm getting them, it's like caring the song community. But, I think there's something interesting there. This song's called Goodbye, John. They've all got different. The second album there, that one behind us, is called Gladsome Humour and Blue, and they sent us to Horsham. It's like the posh version of the Sham 69 song, Horsham Boys, Horsham Boys. It's we're a little place called Ruspa, and we asked if we could pick our own producer for that. We worked with a producer called Gil Norton on our first album, who went on to do Gomez and all this, and the Pixies. I remember hearing the Pixies on a tape, and I says, "Oh, Gil, man, that's 5 years too late. The John Peel stopped playing that stuff." And then he phoned me up. He says, "Hey, Knackernutt, I'm not taking any more tips from you." I says, "Why?" He says, "That band you told me not to produce, it's just gone platinum." I says, "Well, you wouldn't listen." But anyway, we went on and we used a guy called Paul Samuel Smith, who was in the Yardbirds. I loved the Yardbirds when I was 16. Sid Barrett, Peter Green, all the losers, all the people who give the money away and die in the gutter. That was my, that's where I was. But anyway, it's this song's called Goodbye, John. When we went into the studio, it was probably about 25, 26. It was like a farm. There was like a lovely coal house thing full of Guinness. That was great. Oh, as young people, the Guinness is there. There's a little pool table there. Nothing about recording. And there was a barn, and we recorded in the barn. And there was this shifty-looking night watchman. He had like a ginger beard and strawberry blonde hair. And he looked like the Cadbury's Flake lady. He turned around. He had this big pointy nose and a tash. And he was called Speedy. And it turned out he was the singer in a band called Thunderclap Newman when he was 19 in 1969. Something in the air, and it all came from working for Pete Townsend. They were just young songwriters, and Pete came in one day. He says, "Look, we've got to get it together." And he says, "Oh, I'm having that. We have got to get it together." So he was quite a night watchman, and he had a guitarist in the band called Jimmy McCulloch, who was 14 years old when they had this hit in 1969, and Jimmy looked like a little Apache Indian. And he played the SG, and he ended up in Wings years later and all that. And he didn't see 30, Jimmy, probably not 25, So this song's for Speedy and little Jimmy. Thunderclap Newman lads, and it's a stream of consciousness. When I was a kid, we used to go along, when you go along a stream in water and you drop flowers or leaves and you run after them. It's like alternative horse racing. It's very Holland and Barrett, and you chase your little leaf and all that. And that's what, to me, this is a little arpeggio. It's like being on the pyramid stage without the platforms. And it's... and then you just drop the poetry on the top, where dare I call it poetry, just some people, my dad would call it bullshit. I actually sang this song in my dad's coffin about 5 years ago, and I'm sure the me and my daughter were playing the song, and I'm sure the coffin rattled, and I heard this reverberated voice, and it was going, "Shut the fuck up." That was me and my father's relationship, It was, some people call it support. This is called Goodbye, John. Thanks for your patience. July, it was a fruitless month. And it was chibed, molested the end of the birthday. Thespian oration can only give you half, and a rotten egg was spit on at the other, and an atmosphere of salt, the human clock shook. To the end down in nature, split up at two towns, everything's chaotic and all that's real takes a back seat. And that picture tells a lie, just as the song hides a whim. Welcome to the Scientology meeting. L. Ron Hubbard there. We're getting rid of Tom Cruise this week. New pressure is added. Alien facts come to the fore in the mind, but only distort. Goodbye, John. I hope you're there to meet me when I'm gone. My old son, the grass is black. We both reap the same yard. Say in London we're always just like 6 foot away from a rat. Where's the agents? It's the same in music, we're just one step away from prog rock. You've got to be very careful, Neil. One step. Here's the demonstration. There you go. Straight into hell. Let's get the hell out of there. I can feel a wizard coming on. Surrounded by Hammond organs. That's what he's listening to. Time and a word. From the Cabbage Patch Boy to the thud of a streetcar as it moves with the one of the morning. The pedantic light shift that sends waves of fear over the solitary storm. Roll away the stone. I bet it's Mother Hoople you listen to. Mother Hoople. Roll away the stone. And I hear singing again, Jim. Erection starts, and the dawn once again. Goodbye, John. I hope you're there to meet me when I'm gone. My old son, the grass is black. We both reap the same yard. We were John. I hope you're there. You gonna meet me when I'm gone. My old son. Grass is black. We both reap the it's a here. See me on. The ghosts are coming in. This is another lovely lyric written by Anna, and it's a kind of it's a good message, you know. Every kind of heaven. Do it in C. Is C a good key? Was it or was it A? Oh, it was A, wasn't it? Oh shit! Here comes the capo. Or we can cover all the keys. Have you had a good morning? Are you studying here? Or I know you do, guys. That way. Have you had a nice morning? I like the dungarees, by the way, fella. Look nice. Nice spotty top there. There's some good clothes here. It's nice to see you. Yes. Crawl, crawl, crawl. Purple. That looks cool. All right. Just figure out now. Got it. It's just that last chord there. Chord conversion. You shouldn't have to tolerate this. This is called Every Kind of Heaven. It's a little blessing, a beautiful dream for that there's some trees for our children's children, hopefully. We need birds, we need bees, we need flowers, we need trees. We need every kind of heaven for our garden. We need skies, we need seas, we need rivers, we need streams. We need every kind of heaven for our garden. And the world could be a better place. Yes, the world could be a better place with every kind of heaven in our garden. Cost us a fortune, this, Anna. PRS. Say, yes, I say, now's the time, don't delay. Heal the earth, hold the land, sea and sky. In a safe, happy place, not a toxic disgrace. For we need to protect all of our children. For there's no need for the greed. As we sow, we shall reap. Even birds as resilient as the phoenix can't be heard through the cries and the flames of an earth that is poisoned and painfully dying. And the world could be a better place. Yes, the world should be a better place with every kind of heaven in our garden. So take the time whilst you can to protect your fellow man, and in doing so you will safeguard the future. Donald Trump, you twat. The child of today can enjoy the right to play in a world that will see more tomorrow. Boris is a bastard. Lovely song, Anna. Lovely lyrics. Great lyrics. God, there's some really cool guys. The guy looks like Steve McQueen out. A bullet just walked in. Look at the suit, man. It looks cool, man. Cool, man. I sometimes think I still look like that, and then I see myself, I see my father's father, never mind my father. Oh, it's tough at the top, Jimmy. Just think of something. We're going up to Birmingham tonight. It's up, isn't it? It's not down. Everything's down where we live. Down to Iceland. Have a think of something interesting. I'm going to play a song called Rain. I live in a little village called Barberville. It's near Invergordon. I've been up there 23 years. My rent's still 210 quid a month, you know. It's hard to leave there, you know. I've got a neighbour called Mrs. Scott. She's one of those, she looks like an old granny from an Enid Blyton book. She's got all curled over. She killed her husband about 10 years ago. He's under the patio. It's just me and her know about it. And, you know, it's little things like that. When I get the man flu, I phone her up and she hops over the fence, man. When I can't quite reach my limbs a bit. So it's tough. It's a joke. Don't want to get a feminist group together here. Anyway. Just talking shite while I think of the next song. Yeah. This song's called Rain, and I've been singing this song 34 years. I wrote it and I played it to my mother, and she's like a positive. She went, it's lovely that. I says, I think I'll play it to my dad. She went, she tried to warn us. Shite. Thanks for the support, Dad. Yes, I think I'll go for the blue corner. This song's called Rain. We'll sing it for Billy Conley. Trap's pretty quick here. Between lightning and thunder, 3 seconds the gap. A warm candle glow keeps this woodroom from black. And my cat, she sleeps on an old clippy mat. She is purring out echoes of faint pitter pat as the rain pours down. Rain, a most haunting sound. Rain makes beautiful music. Rain brings peace upon all whom it falls. Somebody did an empathetic cough the other way. 3-4 cough. The old subconscious and I are back on speaking terms. She's sending her colors and her beautiful words. And far, far away are the harsh city folk. I'm surrounded by country, surrounded by night. As the rain, not like this one, and I'm not sure. As the rain, you never know, pours down in the yard. Rain, a most haunting sound. Rain, it makes beautiful music. And rain brings peace upon all whom it falls. That one there. aids the mimic of the cricket through the rustling of the leaves. And the ghosts need not scare me, they're welcome within to share my rye whiskey and watch with me as the rain pours down the yard. Rain, a most haunting sound, makes beautiful. Did you hear that girl's voice there? And rain brings peace upon all whom it falls. I'm going for the little angel's wing, Jim. There she is. Meanwhile, that did really well. Everything all right? Yeah. It's lovely to have the fiddler. You can go in lots of different directions with the fiddle. It's great, man. It's just a lovely instrument. Jim's 68 years old, and he's been playing the fiddle since he was 7, you know. So he just plays music. Yeah, he's done all kinds of classical, but he's a great Western swing fiddler. He plays all the country stuff and that. And I just love it because I never have to tell him what to do. He's off and he just does what he does. And it's forgetting what you know. You can even do the Muppet Show if you want. It's time to, but we're not. We're not. We're going to play something interesting. Now, see what Jim does with this. This is called the Cromarty Rag, and I wrote like a Scott Joplin type tune for the people of Cromarty. And we did this like 1920s song sheet, and I couldn't find a picture of Cromarty, so I put Silksworth on. Nobody knew because it was a small picture, but we'll take this down to G. Only doing 2 strings. It's a really nice tuning because you can get your G chord there if you do 5 strings. Sounds like you can play your scales. You'll know I'm cheating, like. And you can get your D with a 6 string. The stridey guitar thing. We used to copy the old piano players where you get the stride, the bum chick to the middle, bum chick, bum. So that's the bum chick. There's Chaz, and there's Dave. Chaz and Dave. That's the left hand, and then you've just got the index finger to play the little melodies. Good night, God bless you. This is called the Cromarty Rag. We'll have a little go. I haven't played this tune for a while. Last time I played this was in Tomar in Portugal, in the middle of a square, and it was just me and a bloody pigeon. And the pigeon wouldn't leave us alone. It kept pecking my ankle. It didn't like the tune, you know. Talk about being down on your luck, eh? Anyway, this is the Cromarty Rag. Slug of iron brew and do a slight variation. Just trying to get that cornetto there. to Greece there. Everything speeds up in Greece. Let's go to Greece. I went to Greece with my first girlfriend. We were on the plane going to Kavos. And she was reading this magazine. She kept looking at me, and she was reading an article. It was, can your relationship survive a holiday? And it didn't. Watch out for this bit, Jim. Pigeon. It's quite sinister, Jim, when he stares at you when he's playing. You intimidate him. Tell me, Jim, do you trust me? Do you really trust me? What's he building in there? You do one more. Thanks very much, Guy. Just want to thank Guy. He's done a lot to help people in music. I mean, I went into the major end of the industry when I was young, and then I'd been a table tennis. I was lucky because I'd been a table tennis player, and I had a bit of a guru, and he got us into the Doors, you know, and family and all that. And then punk came along, and we just reinvented ourselves with punk. You pretended that you didn't like Steve Hillage 6 months earlier, and you kind of rebirthed in punk, you know. But what punk was great as a 16-year-old in 1977, 76, it was like skiffle music. You made it yourself, and suddenly you were allowed to play music if you were shite. So we all got in there, you know, council house mentality, and the Clash were like awesome, you know. And of course, the new wave came along from 76 and 77. By 78, we had what we call the new wave, and that was like your XTCs and all these student art bands sophisticating it and making it really wonderful and taking it in lots of. I mean, from Susie and the Banshees, from our first gig at the Screen in the Green, 1976, where she just jumped up and recited the Lord's Prayer. It's amazing what Susie did from that point, you know, from the our bass player having the guitar the wrong way around, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing, and where she took that, you know, is awesome. Young people are incredible. I just think, I know low budgets you can't live the rest of your life on, but young people do great things with low budgets. I'm not trying to encourage Mr. Trump to, you know, or whoever it is out there, but sometimes when you're on a minimal, you can do more when you limit yourself in a way. When you have low self-esteem and joke. We'll just think of a song to say good night here, and it's or good afternoon. Stardate 243220. Klingon vessel approaching. Have you got perfect pitch, Anne? Because I know you're a classical singer, but have you got perfect pitch or no? I've got imperfect, distant relative pitch. Known in certain circles as wax in the ears. So. I'm just going to to take you for a little journey through my kind of sub-distorted cultural perception of things. This was written on a Portaloo on a sleeper coach in 1989 going through New Mexico. Just standing there, and I was standing having a whittle, and to the left of the bus there was a muck going on. I was on tour with a band called the Hothouse Flowers. To the front of the bus there was a muck that bought crates of tequila. They were all like 23-year-old and they were just going for it. At the back the drummer was watching the boxing live by satellite. I don't know how he was getting it, but it was Frank Bruno and Tyson fighting. It was 1989. We were heading to watch the shuttle take off on the Florida beach. We were trying to get up there to watch the shuttle take off. So we've been on this journey for 3 months in this sleeper coach. And I was just kind of trying to take a moment, and I was in the Portaloo in the middle of the night, thinking about people that really annoyed me, like Sting and Trudy. You know, things like that. Anyway. And I wrote this song. It's called The Ballad of the English Rose. Every time I do it in Scotland, I say, this one's called The Ballad of the English Rose. I says, hang on. Just relax. I kind of, when I first moved to Scotland, I envied my Scottish brothers and sisters with their pride that they had and their awareness of their culture. I mean, my references were Richard Hell and the Voidoids in New York, you know, CBGBs and Lindisfarne, Fog on the Tyne, and that's about it. Holy Island. I'm a recovering Catholic. You know, I'm still trying to reprogram the guilt thing, you know. So, my name's Martin. I'm a recovering Catholic, every day at a time. This is called The Ballad of the English Rose. I'll just put in the key of C, Jim. We'll just pedal a G. This is the story of an English rose who sank to a level of despair. Her hills and her valleys saw her children float away beyond the saving of repair. They go down the do-rad, the do-rad, the do-rad, the do-rad, the do-rad, hey. What's a hooray, Henry, any fucking way? Well, I'll bring you the ballad from the heart of the bard, and pray that journey keep you safe. Bring it, Jim. And her saints were her very soul, but sadly most of them lie butchered long ago. Hence the rose did follow, she did try what's grand. The mirror said, sister, poor Ireland. We go on down, hey. Pray you watch your soul and watch your vision. From the heart of the bar, and pray that journey keep you safe. Nothing like repeating yourself. Our massacred halos, they're all a massacred now. Empty churches, they show a wounded home. Through faith and the ballad, we have but come to the shores of St. Oswin, where the blood did trickle, and incarnation as ballad at these shores. We can see the crazes lingered to now from before. Subtle clothes are changed, the spirit sees with age, all echoing on earth, almighty hell goes on. Watch your soul and watch your faith. Of the English rose, and pray my journey keep you safe. Well, I was singing "Let Me Out of Here" before I was even born. It's such a gamble when you get a face. It's fascinating to observe what the mirror does. But when I die, it's for the wall I set a place. And I belong to a blank generation. I can take it or leave it each time. I belong to the generation. I belong for those who were bored. I'm in there. Well, it's gone. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. From the dead past, the imagined future, all we have is now. All we have is now. Oh, yeah. Well, I view the eerie plot now. 'Tis all evil and all blue. It's just a game of being friends now, for me and you. And I feel the English rose like most insect traps. It's kind of thin and bonny colored. Well, it's got death beneath its cap. And I feel the English rose is a prisoner not free. And all that ever mattered were Jim Morrison from the Doors, the Saints and the Seas, and Mississippi John Hurt. So don't do right. Pray you watch your soul and watch your faith. Well, I bring you the ballad of the English rose, and pray thy journey keep you safe. Jim Morrison on the fiddle there. Anna Levine on the vocals there.
Well, what can I say? First gig here in almost 50 years, and what a gig to start it with. Jim, Martin, Anna, that was fantastic. Before, just a couple of little things at the end, really. Thank you, obviously, for this. Thank you, Jonathan and the team, for doing all the work for this. It's been fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Being Human, for putting the money up for us to do these sort of things. There is a form on your chair, which is a questionnaire, and I know people don't like filling in questionnaires, but if you fill in this questionnaire, it'll help us. You'll get shot? No. If you fill in this questionnaire, it'll help us get more funding, help Being Human get more funding going forwards. Tell us about the place. If you're here tomorrow, you're welcome to come. Again, we're channeling the ghost of Pete Shelley. We're playing Buzzcock songs. We're talking about pop and politics. You're welcome to come to that. And one more thing, we think this is a really special place. We think this is something really special about. Whenever we come down here, Matt and I, we just think there's something really special about it. And we see it with the poets, we see it with the theatre, we see it with Martin and Jim and Anna today. And I said at the beginning about disrupting your everyday and how we believe that you should bring culture into the everyday and bring it into your lunch times, all times, to challenge these ideas. And it's not just about us putting on these events and getting brilliant people like Martin to come and do it. There's a little graphic over there where we say disrupt your everyday. And on that, I've done a clipping from a fanzine called Sniffing Glue. I'm not saying go and sniff glue. It's not big or clever. A fanzine called Sniffing Glue, which Mark Perry did, who's in a band called Alternative TV, who played at the Polytechnic back in the 1970s. And he said on there, here's 3 chords, now form a band. Now, what we think there is, if you bottle the spirit of what you've got here, what we'd like to do is for you, that to be a catalyst for you, and for you and go and do something disruptive. You to take somebody to a gallery at lunchtime. You to do something. And if you do this, please can you tweet about it or tell us about it. There's all sorts of hashtags and email addresses and things there. If you were to do some of that, It would be what Matt and I are trying to do is to encourage people to do these things themselves, not just for us to do it. And as Martin was saying earlier on, part of that punk ethos was really about that. Part of the spirit of the Soho Poly was about that, and part of Disrupt Your Everyday is about that. But thank you all for coming. Thank you again. Martin's got to go to they're all going to a gig now in Birmingham. It's the hectic rock and roll lifestyle. But it keeps him young. But thank you all for coming. Feel free to wander around and see some of the bits, the musical history over there, some of the gigs here. Come to the Redskins Ghost gig in December if you wish. Stuff about Pete Shelley here. Some of, I think Hannah's gone now, but some of her fanzine workshop stuff in there. A picture of Dusty Pulver I mentioned at the beginning. There's a picture of his bedroom wall in that room. And all student walls should be like Dusty's bedroom in there, with a poster of The Who and Pink Floyd and Shirley Collins and all this sort of thing. But thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jim.